I call myself an introverted extrovert. I can be an extrovert when I need to be, especially when it comes to being a show or being a guest or whatever. But I'm still introverted at heart. I mean, that never really goes away. I still enjoy talking with people and sharing stories and going out when I need to. But I'm just comfortable at home, to be perfectly honest, and making meals for myself and doing whatever. But I know I have to be active and be in front of people in order to stay, sharp, stay a little bit more extroverted than I want to be.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Corcoran Entertainment Show. I'm your host, Frankie Corcoran. But here we are. We're back full force. And are we ever back by full force? Moving on with the show today. Great conversation with my guest today, Kurt Sasso. Kurt, what a conversation it was. He is the host of the Two Geeks Talking podcast. You can find it on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you listen to your podcasts. Entertainment podcast that's been going on since 2008. Over 1,200 episodes, and just a great guy. We talk about a lot of things, Canadian stereotypes. He worked in the marijuana industry and just the podcasting as a whole. It's a great conversation, and had a blast talking with them. Be sure to check out Two Geeks Talking on wherever you listen to your podcasts. So yeah, without further ado, guys, just sit back, relax, and enjoy the podcast today. All right. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Corcoran Entertainment Show. I am your host, Frankie Corcoran, and today I am joined by the host of Two Geeks Talking. That could also be referred to this podcast, too, because I'm a geek as well. So it all kind of works out in that way. Kurt Sasso. Kurt, how's it going?
Doing good there, Frankie. I got to thank you for inviting me on the show. I always love guesting on other podcasts there, and I always find it a fascinating side to be on this side on the microphone rather than the side that I'm normally used to as a host. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, I always found that kind of funny because I would always do that too. I'm trying to think what the first podcast was that I was a guest on, and I was like, this feels so weird because I'm like, there's not really any homework I have to do. It's they have to do the homework and find out who I am, and then they go from there. Whereas when you're the host, that's all you got to figure all that stuff out. So I mentioned off the top before we started recording, my computer was all over the place today, just trying to get it all ready. Is that your biggest fear? Like, you have a big interview lined up, or you record for 20 minutes and then, oh shit, it's not recording. Like, are those your worst fears ever as a podcaster?
Yeah, between not pressing record, trying to do a live stream and not actually saying start live stream. That's happened to me before, where I had a half-hour conversation, 15 minutes. I'm like, why is no one commenting? I got no one in the live stream. What's happening? And it was all my fault. Muting the microphone. I did that, where I muted my own microphone for the first 10 minutes of an interview. But meanwhile, we could still talk through Zoom. But, that was going on. I've had interviews crash that I've recorded where I've done all the recording. I had a great long interview and the file size was so large for whatever reason that I couldn't edit it, and it just crashed. So little things like that just like make you pucker. It's one of those things where it's just like, how can I avoid all of my technical issues at once? So update my software, check my audio levels, make sure that my computer isn't saying, hey, you're at 30% microphone level. You really need to speak up. Things like that.
Well, it's almost like the same with medical issues, for example. Like, okay, my my knee's not too bad. I can keep on doing this and do that. And then it all catches up with you. You're like, oh, I should have checked that sooner. And same deal with a podcast. Or, I mean, obviously it's not as serious than your knee or your back or any type of body part. Whereas it's like, okay, yeah, I didn't think about that. I got to update this. I got to update that. The update's going to take 2 hours, but the episode's in 1 hour. What am I going to do? So you're just constantly trying to find all these different solutions, to accommodate it. But how many episodes of Two Geeks Talking have you done now?
I've lost count, but I know it's over 1,200 for sure. It's probably a lot more than that. I started back in 2008, so there's literally at least 800 episodes of just audio format before I switched over to video. So yeah, I could be closing in on the 2,000 range and I wouldn't even know it.
Like, that's amazing. That's really amazing, because as soon as I said he started in 2008, so I'm like doing the math. I'm like, man, he's been doing it for a long time. That takes dedication, really, for a successful podcast, especially a long running one. What do you think is the key to keeping it going for so many years?
Spite. No, it's it's actually just the ability to be consistent. That's the main thing. Do you have enough guests lined up? Can you get more guests? Are you looking for a certain guest that you want to get on the show, whether they're famous or whether they're not? But releasing your content on a consistent basis, like that's why I only release the show once a week, every Fridays, unless it's say a paid client or something like that. I release every Friday. Is it the best time possible for releasing a podcast? I don't know, but it works. But it's my time zone. It's my time slot that I release the content on. And then Mondays, I'll release the audio version of the podcast itself. So being consistent for 16 years now is really my mainstay. And it's taken a lot of time, a lot of effort, and it is more time consuming than a lot of people realize. You're not just a host and pressing record. You're literally doing the social media marketing, you're doing the scheduling, you're doing the planning, you're researching, like you mentioned earlier. Researching is a huge factor. Now, is this guest actually a good person or not? Do you actually want to interview them? Or do they have something wrong with their history that you don't want to even bother touching on your show? There are cases like that too. It's like you got to protect yourself as a podcaster, but you also have to release content for those that actually want to see what you're doing. And entertainment is such a vast genre when it comes to comics, TV, film, music, and video games that I touch on in terms of guesting or in terms of guests on the show, that I just find it's hitting every geeky nook and cranny that I have, and hopefully it reaches other people as well.
I didn't even really think about the time, like whenever you release episodes, because people will say, what's better, radio or podcast? I say podcast because you can listen to it anywhere at any time and wherever, as opposed to radio. Okay, it's on at this time here. Okay, I'm sleeping at that time. I'm not going to be listening to that. So that's why podcasting is a perfect time, but I never really considered like timing and stuff like that. I'm just like, people will listen to it once they get up and they know that I have it out and stuff like that. But like you said, consistency is key, and making sure that you got all the guests lined up, you got all the good questions lined up and everything. Like there's a lot more to it that goes into it. So why did you want to start the podcast? Like feel free to detail some of the history about like when you started it, why you started this. It all just happened by accident, did it?
No. So the phrase is really common now, and that phrase is, we should start a podcast. Nowadays, that everyone says that, and then they get 10 episodes in, and then they just let the podcast die. Back in 2008, the history for Two Geeks Talking was a friend of mine and I, Phil, who was creating webcomics.com, which was a webcomics database, literally for independent creators, was putting together just a list on this website. And I said, well, we have all of these contacts, we have all of these people, we have all of these amazing webcomic creators that have no platform to talk about themselves, those that want to talk about themselves. Let's do a podcast. Let's put it together. And he goes, go ahead, I'm busy. So I had to learn.
Yeah, I'm not doing with it.
Yeah, I know, but to be fair, Phil was also a great co-host and a great host, and for the first 60 episodes of the show, and amazing guy in general. And I wouldn't have gotten to this level without at least his getting me out of my introverted shell. So I do appreciate all of his hard work, truly. But it comes back to having to learn to podcast. How do you set up a podcast in 2008? The audio quality wasn't there, that's for sure. Are there any free podcasting sites out there that you could actually use to schedule Skype calls, to actually link into your actual podcast show? Were there other ways you could even share it on a platform? Because YouTube wasn't doing podcasts. YouTube really wasn't even really around in 2008 until about 2010, roughly. A lot of trial and error, a lot of issues, like my microphone had to be the first thing that changed for me. I was using those Xbox like little headphone things.
Oh, like Turtle Beaches.
Yeah, but pre-Turtle Beaches, where you had to plug it directly into your computer, into the audio jack. So it was like these just really old, horrible technology where the audio quality was like 64 hertz, 96 hertz at best. So really poor, monotone, no levels whatsoever. It was just awful. So try doing that for 4 years at 2 hours a show, live shows where people could call in, ask questions and things like that, talk to the guests that we had on the show, and have no editing whatsoever, and release it, and away you go. But because podcasting was so Wild West, even back then, we had over 750,000 downloads before I stopped doing the podcast, and it switched strictly over to video at YouTube. the show was going places. It was definitely there. I would have easily reached 1 million probably if I had kept it going, but I'm only one person doing all the editing, doing all the releasing, creating the descriptions because AI wasn't around back then. Let's not get started on AI podcasting. That'll be a whole other conversation. But it's just one of those things where it's perseverance and a lot of trial and error. And I think I found a formula that's worked for me, and hopefully it's people keep listening and watching the show.
Absolutely. I'm just thinking about sitting there with the little like pre-Turtle Beaches headsets, looking like a little like discount pilot. Like I know what I'm doing, you know?
Yeah, it's pre-flight simulator type thing. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Oh man, but like you said, when you're, it's basically it's been like a one person show for, and sometimes that's, I find it much easier this way. Like I've been doing the podcast like just by myself, and it kind of started similarly to kind of how you said, like where you're always talking to your friends and you say let's start a podcast, and you get to 10 episodes and then you're done. That's kind of like me and my friends, we'd always talk about that if we were like drunk one night and just say let's do a podcast, and the next day we completely forget that it happened. When you're getting like a bunch of people on and you're saying like okay, we're gonna have like 3 hosts, we're gonna have 5 guests, so it's like okay, like you know, it's much easier, like way easier. If it might be more work if you're doing all the editing, you're doing all the shows and stuff like that by yourself, but it's also easy in a way. Do you like that type of style? Like do you prefer just doing all that by yourself, or are there some days where you're like, I need somebody to edit for me and do all that?
For me, it comes back to a common phrase that's always been said is you don't expect other people to be at the same level of your skill set in terms of quality, because you'll be disappointed. It's not that I don't want people to help me edit or anything like that. I just don't know if they would have the same strictness that I do when it comes to releasing content, because while I'm releasing a video interview, I'm editing it as if I'm releasing a podcast. And so if you ever watch the video interviews, you'll see the heads jumping back and forth or whatever, but the audio is clean and crystal clear, and it still provides the message of what the guest wants to say. Sometimes during these interviews, a lot of times, and I'm sure you're aware of this as well too, a guest is going to go off on a tangent, and it's going to go on 3 different types of directions and not go back to the main point that they spoke on, or they completely forget the train of thought. Yeah.
Every time I'm just I have like take a shot every time you think of one that happened.
or if you have a common phrase or whatever and you say, hey, you should listen to this episode and drink every time I say this phrase, don't be responsible for their hospital bills or whatever when it comes to liver failure.
If I said take a shot every time I'd say absolutely on this podcast, oh my God, somebody would be in the hospital. And it's one of those things, I try my best not to say it sometimes. It's after someone starts talking, I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And then I think about that, I'm like, fuck, Frankie, stop saying absolutely. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I just can't help it. Sometimes it's so hard. So like lately I've been trying to get better at, I think for the most part, everybody's guilty of saying like a lot. Like that's a huge, yeah, see, I just said it there twice. like this, like that.
As well as is another one that I say a lot too, and I really got to stop doing that.
That's so bad.
Or how many times a guest says again, like that. That's another one that's just one of those key words. For me, it's a word that I heard a lot when I was doing customer support, because I would be dealing with Americans. So they'd always say again. And it's just like, okay, just stop. You can say other words.
Or it's like how people compare our Canadian stereotypes. The A. We don't always we don't all say A. Do you say A?
Oh, totally. I if I'm really trying to push my accent, like I'll totally go into like, how's she going there, bud? You know, it comes down to the fact that one of these days you're going to come on as a guest there, and it comes down to, and I'll just ramble off a whole bunch of stuff. So,
and then they're like, you actually talk like that? No, I don't.
Although I did work a good friend of mine who's an author, Chris, he's out of Newfoundland there, and so he, you know, you got the Newfie accent there, and I'd always chat with him and just say, how's she going, me trout, and you know, things like that.
But the old speckled trout. That's one that we always say too. You speckled trout, or my God, there's so many. How are you guys with the Tim Hortons? You call Tim Hortons Timmy's?
Oh yeah, I may be in southwestern Ontario, but you know, we still deal with that burnt swill that we have to drink every now and then because our citizenship would be revoked.
Is that what you're drinking in that mug right now?
No, actually, it's decaf Folgers right now because it's going to be a long night.
Oh, okay. Wait, what's going on tonight? Well, like, what's
Oh,
are
just
you editing all night?
yeah, I'm just doing some editing and things like that, or I'm working on a video game, or just I'm trying to kind of decompress from, you do this for so long, and it comes down to how do you separate yourself from being a podcast host, and what do you do to take time away from the show and yourself to kind of just reinvigorate yourself and re-energize your creativity. For me, I'll play video games, or I decided to challenge myself and see if I could create a video game just out of Unreal Engine, just for fun, just to see if I can do that. It's a slow process, but I'm finding enjoyment with it. But this coming Saturday, I'll have an interview that I'll have to do as well, and I have interviews scheduled till March currently. And it's one of those things where, how do you prioritize your time? How do you prioritize what you love doing versus what you need to get out in terms of content?
Does that always feel nice? Like you said that you have interviews booked like right through till March. Does that feel overwhelming for you sometimes, or is that also like, no, like I'm covered. I don't have to go do the work now and make sure that I have people? Because like we said, that's a big task too, just lining up people. Is it a relief, or is it like oh God,
It's only in oh shit moment when it becomes down to you get like three clients back to back in terms of like for paid clients. Then it's like, okay, now I got to really prioritize, like, how do I do that? And it's gotten to the point where I had something like that last year where I had to kind of put aside some free stuff, some free content, and focus on what they wanted to get out, because either they had Kickstarter campaigns or whatever the case may be. So I wanted to make sure that their content was good so that I could do the best of my ability. And they're paying me for my services, so why not do the best I can do? But I love the fact that I'm booked up until March, and I'll do a post on all my social media platforms saying at the end of November, December, you really got to book your interviews now, because when you come crying in the new year saying, oh, can I do this interview because I have a campaign? I'm like, yeah, here's your other options, but you had a free option available like 6 months ago.
You didn't take it.
Yeah, so it's like I have a very open door policy. I'm very willing to work with a lot of people in general, and it's worked out well for 16 years.
And it's good to be accommodating in that regard, because I've dealt with situations where a guest couldn't do a certain date, but I had so and so scheduled for that day too. But the guest that had postponed and wanted to do it on that day said, like, this project comes out on this day and this and that. So then I'll approach the guest and say, hey, would you mind postponing an hour or 2 hours? Like, just to kind of, you don't want to straight up just cancel, because that's one thing that, you would just, yeah, something came up. Yeah, something came up. Like, no, like that's not good for people who want to be on the show if you're just canceling. So try to make accommodations. And then if it doesn't work, okay, it looks like we're going to have to postpone. And sometimes it is what it is. Have you had many bad experiences with people who are like, what do you mean? I need to do it now? Or they're pretty understanding?
They're pretty understanding. I like, for the most part, the only time I'll actively cancel something is when I have something that's paying me. So I work in the TV and film industry as well too. So if I'm doing GIT work and it's a paying gig, I'm sorry, your free content, unfortunately, your free interview will have to be rescheduled. I have someone paying me. And 99% of the time they're actively good with that, because they understand and they realize a lot of podcasts are free, and rightly so, because guests need shows and shows need guests, and I get that cyclical aspect, and it's all wonderful there, but you also have to take care of yourself. And that's something I didn't learn for the first 10 years, where I was very over accommodating to the point of almost burning myself out. And people will actively take advantage of free availability. And so where do you set your boundaries as a podcast host? And it'll give you freedom not only to stay true to yourself, but you'll be better with your content. And, you're at least saying that, yes, I can actively interview you, but I really need some time for myself as well. So they do understand that boundary too.
Absolutely. I just said absolutely again.
Well, here, I'll drink. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he's doing right now. He's taking a sip every time I say absolutely. Geez, yeah, from now on, every time I say that, I'm just going to catch myself. Like, it's so bad. I'm getting better at it. Not as bad as when I first started. It was like every 2 seconds was absolutely. Like, that was great. Like, absolutely. Oh God. you would be in a coma if we did this drinking game. Yes, he's pouring another drink. I'm not sure if you guys can hear that, but he's pouring himself. There we go. You had mentioned earlier about when you first started podcasting, how you were kind of introverted, and just how much being a podcast host really helped you. How would you compare pre-podcast Kurt Sasso to current 1,200 episodes later Kurt Sasso?
I call myself an introverted extrovert. I can be an extrovert when I need to be, especially when it comes to being a show or being a guest or whatever. But I'm still introverted at heart. I mean, that never really goes away. I still enjoy talking with people and sharing stories and going out when I need to. But I'm just comfortable at home, to be perfectly honest, and making meals for myself and doing whatever. But I know I have to be active and be in front of people in order to stay, sharp, stay a little bit more extroverted than I want to be, only because it helps me in the long run. It helps me be a better person. It helps me communicate better. It helps me listen better to other people and what they're describing and talking about. So when I look at myself from the first 60 episodes, if I ever release that old archive way back when, and that's still a question I ask myself every year, should I actually release the old archive? Because it was a different time back in 2008 compared to today. It just comes back to I wasn't really able to find my voice for the first 60 episodes because I didn't know who I was or who I wanted to be as a person when it comes to talking with people. And so by episode 61, that was really the first episode I started going solo. How do you, as a person that was so used to having someone else as a wingman take the reins, how do you set yourself apart from that and be that active speaker and actively ask people questions? I started writing down questions. I started actively really researching into the people that we were talking to instead of just winging it, going off the cuff, off the dome. I'm getting better with it. And even 16 years later, I'll still fumble, I'll still flub. That happens because we're people. But I feel a lot better than I was 16 years ago, that's for sure.
I mean, you could be a world high-class carpenter. 16 years later, you still might miss a nail and put a hole in the wall. Just we all do it. We all make mistakes. A barber could fuck up somehow, by cutting someone's hair. Yeah, oops. Oh, your hair's all gone. Sorry. Some mistakes bigger than others, but you kind of just look at your strengths. You look at, especially you talk about you're not sure if you're going to release that old footage. I would love to see that old footage because I always say that stuff's so inspiring for new podcasters or new people who are just entering the arts or whatever it is in content creation. I've had certain episodes where I look back on and I'm like, do I want to delete that? Because, it was so cringe the way I said this. It was so cringe the way I said that. And then eventually I just said, no, I'm just going to leave it all up. It's nice for people to look at and for people to see, okay, the audio quality sounds great now, but look how bad it sounded then when we had the old shitty Staples, one of those shitty Staples mics. And then here we are now. We got Shure. We got, that's eventually might get the SM7B, but that's a big investment. What mic is that you have there? That one?
I got the Rode NT1, the version that's I think I got it back in 2018, 2019, something like that. But it works good. I like it. I think it has really good. But I'm really running it through a 2-channel soundboard from Benheiser or whatever it is. So that was an old podcast setup, the 502, and it's worked great for the past almost 20 years now. So I've had no reason to change it to go to a digital soundboard or anything like that, like what Rode has or whatever else the streamers use, etc.
Well, it's like the old saying, don't fix what ain't broken. This one here, this Shure right here, it's basically a USB version of the SM7B. And it was one of those ones you never had to adjust the audio or anything like that. Like those old mics, whenever you bought them. This one here, just like heaven. You can just adjust it all from there. And so people always say, are you going to upgrade to this, upgrade to that? I'm like, well, what I have is working. So it's like if your house is 2 stories and you want it to be 3 stories, well, why bother? It's fine the way it is. Don't fix what isn't broken. How many changes has your podcast kind of undergone throughout the years in terms of something that you maybe thought, okay, this was working then, but now it's not, or this is working fine, I'm just going to leave it? And how do you deal with making the quality content better as the years go on?
Two of the things that I've actually upgraded, because I switched to video primarily, I needed better lighting. That was the main thing. So I picked up a couple of newer ring lights, like I think the 14 or 16-inch ones. I got two on both sides here. That was a huge improvement in terms of my lighting quality. It really kind of lets me be in the focus there. Picked up a green screen behind me so I can put my logo in the back of it, as you see here. Nice, simple upgrade. To be honest, though, your background, you have a perfect area to make it a green screen. So you might want to think of that to put your logo there.
Well, I thought about that too, actually. Well, because I normally do just the audio for the podcast. Like I'll record both, but the video one always took so much work and the editing and the videos and stuff like that. So I just said, I'm just going to stick it to audio. You know, I still upload them to YouTube and I still upload them to, you know, Spotify and all that stuff like that. I always still save the video in case someone says like, yeah, do you mind if I have that? Like somebody, I can't remember who it was now, back in the summer, they said, yeah, I want to share it on my Instagram. And so I sent them the file. And yeah, I'd never before seen footage. But yeah, this actually worked out perfectly. But I painted my room this color. I never intended to do a podcast or anything like this. It was just, green's cool, you know? And then here we are now. Like, I don't even need to set up a green screen or anything like that.
You know, they've been so supportive over the years. I'm glad I'm able to help them out. I'm glad I'm able to be there because they are getting older, you know, things like that. So I want to make sure that I'm around enough and using this show as a way so I could like gain financial freedom from it is really the ultimate goal here for me, so that I can pay attention when they need assistance and help and things like that. So it's an overarching thing for me to do. You know, I want them to be as comfortable as they can in their life, and I'm glad I'm doing that here. So that's the main thing.
That's yeah, like really, I find especially when I'll be 26 in July. Like I'm not like, you know, 80 years old and I'm reflecting on life or anything like that. But you know, as each year goes by, you always stop and think, and you just go, oh, like, you know, family's getting older, kids are growing up. You know what I mean? Like you're always constantly thinking about life in general. How important is it for you? It's important for everyone to work. I mean, obviously that's how people make a living. How important is it, you know, when you think like your mom who's still around, do you ever, you know, stop and think like, I need to make sure that I have a perfect work-life balance? Like how was it before? And if it was bad, how did it improve?
This is the first time in a couple of years I've been a freelancer, really, in terms of what I can do. The job market has been brutal overall, just for the past couple of years. It's been awful. I've applied to thousands of jobs quite literally and had only like one in-person interview. And it's painful because when I was always working somewhere else, I would always still make time for the show. And so that's where my schedule would change. That's where scheduling guests would change. You know, I had to work things around. You know, am I working a night shift? Well, can I do a day interview? Things like that. I made it work somehow is really what it boils down to. And I think it just comes back to just that consistency and perseverance. Like when I went back to university for 4 years in visual arts and film, I was still doing the show. I was still doing a 4-year double major at university, still doing interviews like that. I don't know how I did it, but it was very time consuming, very stressful. I just found a way to do like 52 interviews in 30 days or something like that. That was like a project I had or something like that in podcasting as a class. So between that was a lot of work. That was just like, okay, I have all of these slots open at these time slots, fill them in, let's get them going. And they're only half-hour interviews, boom, let's go, done. And there was like very little editing.
Oh, well, there we go. That makes it so much easier. Yeah, just send it up. Don't edit it. It's fine. You know, audio doesn't have to sound perfect or anything like that. I want to ask you too, doing my research, you worked at in the marijuana industry. Was this before it was legal, or?
This was legal. Yes, this was all perfectly legal. They were basically setting up the marijuana facility in Leamington. By the time it had actively became legal in Canada, they were already setting up production and getting everything ready for release. And so it was a good 3.5 years in that industry itself before I moved on. And it was just amazing to see how a fledgling industry like that in a primarily farming community at that just took off. Like, it was a huge proponent for a lot of jobs in the town, and I'm sure it gave the government of Canada a lot of money as well too. It didn't really trickle down to the workers per se, but the pay was good, I'll have to admit. It was a very interesting to see the types of products that were created, the types of innovations that they were doing with, like, say, resins and things like that. The growing itself was just a sight to behold. I mean, you grow a plant in like 6 weeks or something like that, 8 weeks, and you're picking the buds off in cycles, and it was just amazing. Like, a huge facility too.
Yeah, I was just curious whenever I saw that on there. I'm like, so was he a weed dealer? Because this was before it was legal. So I'm like, was he dealing? I said, okay, yeah. I'm like, let's have him confess on the air.
No, I stuck to, I was more of an ERP data analyst type thing. I was looking at production values and seeing where processes could be improved and things like that. I was more along that avenue of the production side of things. And I was briefly in the IT side for a couple of months working on some project management stuff. And, like, it was a very well knit group of departments and community and things like that, and it was just one of those things where I really wish the industry would do a lot better than it currently is, and it would really show an influx into a different production cycle of product.
No, 100%, 100%. Yeah, see how I didn't say absolutely there. We're doing good. Yeah, just son of a bitch. I mean, you found great success in like every area, really. I mean, like, you're doing the podcasting thing. You also have a documentary that you're working on, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's been an ongoing documentary called Little Person Amongst Media Giants. The basis of that was I wanted to go and interview Stan Lee, because I knew if I were ever to interview Stan Lee, I would only have time to ask him, say, 4 questions. And so I really did my research in terms of the 4 questions I wanted to ask if I ever got a chance to interview him. I never did, by the way. That's the only issue, because he's unfortunately sadly passed away. I took the same basis of those same 4 introspective questions, and I give them to all of my guests. And so for the past 12 or so years, I've been literally asking these same 4 questions at the end of my interview, where I just dive a little more deeply into their creativity, but also into themselves as a person. And I think that's something that we miss as hosts sometimes. We're so focused on the research and the questions and getting out good content and getting good answers to said questions that we don't really take the time to dive deeper into who the person is who we're talking to. And I think with this documentary that I want to put together, because I know it's going to be a huge undertaking in itself. You think editing a podcast is bad, try editing a document.
I shouldn't be complaining.
So it just comes back to, when will I get time to actively do it? And I have a lot of people where they've either passed on, unfortunately, where I've asked them these questions, and there's other people that have come back on the show and I've re-asked the questions, say like a decade later. How has their thought process changed from 10 years ago type deal? Sometimes they'll give the same answers. Other times they'll be a little more introspective than even I realized. It's one of those things that I want to get done. It's just a matter of, who do I pick out of the literally thousands of people I've talked to make the key focus of this documentary. That's the other thing.
That's the key. But Rome wasn't built in a day, so I'm sure it'll. Yeah, what'll be out first, the documentary or Grand Theft Auto 6?
Grand Theft Auto 6.
I think so. Oh, okay, right on.
I mean,
without a doubt.
I don't even have timelines for any of this content. It's too much for one person. That's where I'll have to get a team together and get editors and get people to say, oh, this is a good piece, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And just plan it out better than just simply pressing record and doing a show.
Then you're like, I need help now. I do the podcast all myself. Now we need help. But so far, you've done great at everything that you're doing. Congrats on, 1,200 podcasts. Like that's a big accomplishment right there. And you're still doing lots. Kurt, we could talk all day about just this stuff about Canadian stereotypes and this and that. I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to come on today. Do you have any final words in terms of like where people can follow you and stuff like that?
No, Frankie, honestly, this is a great conversation. I got to get a more Canadian podcast just so I can Canadian out.
Oh, of course, eh? Absolutely, eh? Come on.
I got to get back to the East Coast because I really miss it, because honestly, the fish is the best there. No other place will suffice for me. Like literally, I will stop eating fish if I don't go to the East Coast.
We'll welcome you with open arms, man. We will welcome you with open arms.
Appreciate it. And then just make sure I get a shot of Screech there while we're at it. Anyhow, anyhow, so those that can actually find myself and Two Geeks Talking, you can of course find the show on our website, tgtmedia.com or twogeekstalking.com. That's TWO. Website's going through a complete overhaul. So while that may not work, go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/TGT Media. The podcast you can find by searching Two Geeks Talking, or just search twogeekstalking.podbean.com. And as I say every week, everyone has a story to tell. It's up to me to help bring that out. Thanks for listening and watching on this amazing show right here.
That was perfect, actually. That was very, very well said.
Well, I got 16 years.
Yes, there you go. See, so you're a pro with this by now. This is just all second nature to you. But definitely be sure to go on his YouTube channel and check out the Two Geeks Talking podcast. But until then, this is Frankie and Kurt signing off. Thanks, man.
Appreciate it. Thanks.